Hello, everyone, and thank you guys so much for coming. Greetings to you from Republica 25. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Scott Bybin, and I'm the founder of Offworld Voyage. And
I'm Elizabeth Jane Cole, and I'm the Director of Operations of Offworld Voyage.
yes, and here we are. So you guys ready to get started with the presentation? Okay. So here we go. Liz, you had some thoughts on this, right?
It's long been a joke amongst astronauts that if you weren't an environmentalist before you went to space, you will be one by the time you return to Earth. And that's because seeing the Earth from space is a transformative experience that frequently produces long-term changes in astronauts. Not just the way that they see themselves in relation to the Earth and the way that they see the Earth, but also, their behaviors in terms of sustainable practices, diet, etc.
Okay. And this is one of my favorite inventors, mathematicians, brilliant people of all times. One of the most influential people in my life, if you're not already aware of him, R. Buckminster Fuller, the inventor of the geodesic dome and a bunch of other concepts, including the Dymaxion concept. So he says that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that is precisely what we're trying to do. Okay, to begin. Side quests can lead to things, and non-traditional pathways can take you to where you want to go. I'm Scott Bybin. I do a bunch of different things. I'm an inventor, a self-taught engineer. I'm really fond of the intersection of science and art. I do a bunch of different science experiments with music, and I design a bunch of weird things. I'm also a longtime environmental and social activist. Activism is very important. Social change is very, very important to me. And I also have a lifelong interest in space exploration. As a child, I was on the track to becoming an aerospace engineer and was very adamant about it, but at the time there weren't that many options unless you wanted to pursue a life in the military, which I didn't. And I wound up taking a bunch of interesting and crazy roads. I wound up diverting from engineering and got into activism and started a DIY punk record label and a film festival and a bunch of other things. So I wound up eventually coming back to science and engineering at around 2008, 2009, and got deep into inventing. I'm an enthusiast of autonomous action, collectivism, cooperativism, any types of alternative approaches to organizing societies. Let's see. I currently am living off-grid in Philadelphia in an experiment. I've been off the electric grid for the past 4.5 years or so, and then off the water grid for the past 2 years. And it's sort of working, but I'm doing this in preparation for what we're about to show you. And I have an umbrella of different projects that you can check out. And the last thing is music on Mars, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And to you, Liz. Here we go. Yeah, I forgot to say yes. Also, I'm what's called considered an analog astronaut. That means that I do training missions as part of a community of people that are devoted to experimenting with how to live off-world. And we'll be talking a little bit about these facilities that host missions. So I'm also an alum from Mars Desert Research Station, which is located in Utah. It's run by the Mars Society, and I'm a core committee member of the Journal for Space Analog Research, and the founder of Offworld Voyage.
And hi. So I also live in the world of words and advocacy. Scott and I co-founded Evil Twin Booking Agency, and through that we help artists, activists, scientists, and investigative journalists reach broader audiences and further their work. And my interest in space and space medicine came from a book called Packing for Mars that explores the bizarre and uncomfortable aspects of space exploration. But what that book taught me was that space exploration is more about human resilience and adaptation to extreme environments than it is about technological advances. And I'm also an analog astronaut and alumna of the Mars Desert Research Station, where I served as the crew journalist.
Okay. Space analog research, training to explore other worlds. One second. Okay. So, as many of you know, Mars is one of the most hostile environments to humans. It's super cold during the day. It's warmish during the day. The temperature can fluctuate pretty greatly. The atmosphere is 170 times less dense than on Earth. It's 97% carbon dioxide, so it would be very difficult to breathe. It's a very thin atmosphere as well. Also, the soil is very contaminated with perchlorates. And so, yes, even Mars can kill you. As much as everyone wants to think that it might become a playground for those who can afford to go there, the chance that you will die if you arrive there is high. The chance that you might not survive the solar storms along the way is pretty high. And if we can figure out how to survive in harsh conditions like these, like getting through the radiation, getting through the temperature changes, just think about all the things that innovation can be used for. So the analog astronaut community is a growing field of training for future space exploration. There are lots of different types of habitats, and we'll talk to you about these. There are varying degrees of fidelity, meaning that some of them are pressurized, some of them are not. Some are designed for isolation, all different types of features. Some of the locations are also chosen for geology similar to Mars. For example, the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah, the geology is almost identical to Mars. However, there are other simulation facilities like SAM, that's an indoor facility. It's at Biosphere 2, and it's inside of an enclosed area, and you don't really get to go outside. There's some other features too. Liz, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the analog research facilities?
Sure. Flashline is run by the Mars Society, and that is actually up in the Arctic Circle, where crews conduct experiments in astrobiology, geological surveys, etc., in a polar desert that, in terms of climate and hardship, is very similar to what an actual, human's expedition would experience on the surface of Mars. High Seas is on the slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano in Hawaii, and High Seas runs experiments testing on the effects of isolation and other psychological effects on human researchers. And there are some space agency-based facilities as well, like NASA runs Chapea and Hera out of the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And there's, of course, Luna in Cologne, Germany, which is run by ESA.
Okay, so how did we get into all this? What was the catalyst and the transition for us? Well, we were in Hawaii, and I was listening to volcanoes. Here I am at Fissure 8, and I'm using a geophone, which is a special microphone that is incredibly sensitive and can listen to very, 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 very quiet sounds. So I was listening to the bubbling and burpling of the sounds of the earth. And one of the other reasons why we were there was to visit HI-SEAS, which was mentioned earlier, which is an analog astronaut training facility. We were so excited to go, and we're trying to figure out, how do we go? How do we get there? And we were very close to figuring it out, but then there was an eruption of the Mauna Loa volcano. It thwarted our request. So as you can see on the map over here, this is HI-SEAS, where the yellow dot is, and here we are checking it out right next to the lava field, and we're right over here, pretty close. It was very dangerous. Yes, very dangerous. Okay, so what was very, very strange is that the next thing, after we'd been trying to find our way into these analog astronaut training facilities just to check it out, just to take some photos, we wind up getting a phone call.
Our fantastic friend Roger Gilbertson, and we actually know Roger because we helped direct the outreach campaign for a film he produced called Who Killed the Electric Car? But Roger is also deeply involved in the aerospace industry, and he's a Renaissance person and absolutely fantastic human. And one morning, he called us, and what did he say, Scott?
He said, hey, he told us that he was the crew commander at the Mars Desert Research Station and was looking to fill the crew and was wondering if we wanted to go and if we knew what it was.
We said, yes, absolutely. And he's like, wait, don't you want to hear more about what this is about? We said, no, yes, we want to join.
Yes. So the next thing you know, we're training, and a few months later, we're on the Mars Desert Research Station mission. And here's our crew. And this is what the Mars Desert Research Station looks like. So as I mentioned, the geology is very similar to Mars. At the center, you could see the habitat in which we lived. They were flying by the Science Dome, and there's a telescope. It's a very, very cool location. So I wound up putting this all together by doing LiDAR scans of the ground over the course of the 2 weeks that we were in our immersion. And a lot of it's kind of very gurgly and glitchy, but that's okay. That's the RAM, which is kind of the maker space, and you see some buggies, which is cool. There we go. Now, one of the things that I did at the Mars Desert Research Station is that I composed a piece of music to be played there called Saudade for the Days Between Mars and Earth. I made a filter with my friend John Knott to simulate the acoustic properties of Mars based upon data gathered by the Mars Perseverance rover. And then I played it during an EVA. EVA stands for extravehicular activity, which is space talk for going outside, preferably in a spacesuit. So this is a sunset set that I played. Okay, Mars LARPing. Here are some of the activities that we did. This is Liz flying a drone. This is us exploring. See, it's very Mars-like. And donning and doffing is the term for putting a spacesuit on and taking it off. And in the future, you'll be able to check out a documentary film called Mars Academy by Ugo Saugier, who is an amazing filmmaker who's on our tour. So here we go, mapping uncharted territory. If you haven't heard of someone doing something yet, that's a good enough reason to try it. If you imagine something, just go for it. And as I always like to say, do improbable things well and often. So I was inspired by my time at the Mars Desert Research Station to pursue doing analog astronaut missions. Now, one of the things about me is I've been vegan since 1990. I'm a pretty adamant environmental activist, and I wanted to overlap a lot of my interests. And I kept on looking for facilities that could accommodate my interests. And after a certain point, I realized, well, I just have to make it myself. And so here we go. Introducing Offworld Voyage. So, created a laboratory that develops what are called space analog research facilities that address not only survival on Mars or other planets, but also adapting to climate biodevastation on Earth. So we're all science-based, zero waste, and all vegan. Why vegan, though? Because to us, animal agriculture is very intensive in terms of energy and inputs. You get very little out of it for what you put into it. And so it doesn't really make very much sense to have livestock and deal with all those problems while traveling elsewhere. And even on Earth, in my opinion. So, the intersection of many different things is a big reason to, I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's one of, sorry. I like dealing with the intersection of many different things in order to synthesize new ideas. So I jump into lots of different things and I try to put them all together. And I volunteer a lot, and I encourage you guys all to do that. So here we go, intersection of science, art, and environmental activism. And introducing the Mars Tesseract habitats. Here we go. Mars, by the way, stands for Mars Analog Research Station. And here we go. You guys ready to see what it looks like? Okay. So this is a thing I designed with Michael Flood. What you're looking at right now is the downstairs part of the green hab. So in this green hab, we grow plants, we're growing algae, we're generating electricity using pedal generators. It's pretty fun. The dome itself is 13 meters in diameter. And here we go, some storage. We're growing some mushrooms over there. Okay, this is the Fab Lab. So we will have a fully stocked laboratory, a maker space, an mission support center, and we'll come right up to, let's see, that's the trash and recycling. Aha, this is the donning and doffing section. So we're basically going to have pressurized spacesuits so people can go on EVAs here. And this is a workspace, collaborative space. And then up top, you'll see a bunch of hexayurts where crews will be able to sleep. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. This is the Space Medicine Sick Bay. Let's see. Big thanks to Michael Flood for working on this with me, as well as Felipe Cuenca Galan. Okay, so we have a very strong focus on ecotech, pressurized EVAs. We are intermediate fidelity, meaning that we're not a pressurized facility. We are contained, but we will have pressurized EVAs. We're looking for locations that are similar in geology to the Martian environment. So windswept features, we're trying to make sure that the features are barren of vegetation, and we want to be careful about cryptobiotic soil. We're also not going to poke things into the ground. Our bases are designed to be portable and lightweight. They can pack up into a couple of shipping containers, and we can cart them away when it's time. Let's see. Looking for remote locations, like I mentioned. And as you saw with the domes, they're modular and scalable design patterns. And we have these narratives as well. So Liz is the writer, and she's composing a lot of immersive problem-solving narratives right now. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we'll have some narratives within the missions involving, for example, the astronauts in the crew losing contact with mission control and mission support, and needing to come to a good decision-making process on their own. And we'll also have some other narratives that are medical-based, such as maybe involving shortages of necessary medicines, and astronauts will need to come up with a good system for rationing and sharing, for example.
Okay. And here we go. So these are some of the pressure suits that we're working on. So we were just at Smith Exploration Garments getting fitted. So first we were getting fitted traditionally, and we had to wear these bodysuits. And then I wound up cracking out my fancy LiDAR scanner, and we took very accurate measurements. And yeah, so we'll have our pressure suits. You can see it on the bottom right. Okay. So one of the things that we're very concerned about with this current era of irrational populism is how do we view the pursuit of space exploration, given that that attack? And here's some of the things that we're thinking about here. We're probably an alternative. Yeah, we like to see ourselves as an alternative to the other things that are out there, the government-funded space agencies, the commercial space agencies. We see a future when we're going to have other types of economic configurations sending people off into space. Things like DAOs. We'll be able to get up there via nonprofits and other types of things. Okay. So I'm going to just kind of zip through some of these things, so we don't have a lot of time. Let's see. Some of the mission activities you can check out. Okay. And yeah, so some of the problems we're trying to solve for here is basically how to survive in very harsh environments. And here's one of your quotes, Liz. Why don't you, yeah.
Sure. So we all stand to lose when science is under attack and when rational thought are under attack. We all benefit from what goes into space research. It has given us environmental sensing and detection, nifty things like GPS and Velcro. And the current attacks on science in some countries underscore the need to build alternative methods of funding and supporting space research programs independent of the existing government-run ones.
Okay, here we go. So yeah, we're running out of time, so we'll just kind of go through some of these slides, and you can check them out later. So one of the things we're going to do is submit all the research that we gather for peer review. We're very much into do-it-yourself cultures and mutual aid and all this other fun stuff. And we're down for preserving the data that we gather as well. There we go. In terms of our data, we're part of the Journal for Space Analog Research, and we're going to be submitting a lot of our stuff to that journal and other journals as well. We're going to be developing curricula and narrative programs and protocols. And yeah, and here's some of the other things that we're going to be doing as well in terms of funding for what we're doing. So far, we've been bootstrapped. That means we've been self-funded. and right now we're looking for grants. So far, we've done all of our location scouting for several locations. Hopefully, we're going to be announcing in a few months where our first prototyping mission will be. We've designed all the CAD systems and done all the engineering. And yeah, the EVA pressure suits are being manufactured. And yeah, we're going to be opening up crew submission applications soon. And here's some of the stuff we need help with. And yeah, you have a piece on the MDRS mission.
True. I have been working on a piece on my time at the Mars Desert Research Station, and we also wanted to announce that there is an initiative coming up later this year called the World's Biggest Analog, that is a sort of collective effort between different space analog research facilities around the world. I believe it's this October, and they will all be holding missions concurrently. Some of them are still taking, they still have applications open for members if you would like to join.
Yes, and also the Journal for Space Analog Research and the Analog Astronaut Research Journal have open calls for papers. And we wanted to thank you guys so much. This is, I guess, us last year. It's a little bit of a fractal. Okay, so we might have time for questions here. Here is a big thank you guys for support. So we wanted to thank the whole Republica program team. Thank you guys. And here we go. Do we have time for a question?